Welcome to the Socialette podcast, where we empower you with the marketing know-how you need to create the business of your dreams. I'm your host, Steph Taylor, and I'm a marketing nerd, Shiraz lover, and passport stamp collector. Join me as I dive into all things small business marketing and deliver them to you in bite-sized, fluff-free lessons every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let's get learning. Hey, welcome back to the Socialette podcast. This is episode 150. Today's podcast guest is the fabulous Casey Mason. She's the founder of the Real Her Project, which is mindset education for the next generation of women. She's also running an event next week, actually, at which I'll be speaking, and I will link to the event in the show notes. It's called the Real Girls Real Success Convention, and it's going to be an amazing day, and hopefully I'll see you there. You can use my discount code STEPH for 10% off the ticket price. Click on the link in the show notes to grab your ticket. Okay, so today's episode, Casey and I chat a little bit around mindset, around marketing yourself, as well as how to market an event and how to really make the most of free marketing, especially collaborations, which I am a big fan of. Let's dive into the interview. Hi, Casey. Thank you so much for being here on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Steph. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm like such a fan of your podcast. So.
And likewise. Yeah. So tell our listeners who don't know who you are, what do you do?
Yeah. So I'm Casey. I'm the founder of the Real Her Project, which in a nutshell aims to connect young female entrepreneurs with their role models and help them, I guess, figure out their future and create the life of their dreams so that just like their role models, they're living a life of success. So I do that through a podcast and a little bit of one-on-one coaching, and we're starting an event very, very soon.
Yay, exciting. Yeah. And that is the event that I'm speaking at, and you can grab tickets. I'll mention the link and everything later. So like every other entrepreneur, like I imagine your journey to where you are now has probably not been so linear. Would you like to share a little bit about your story and your journey so far?
Definitely. So for me, it was, I guess, a pretty like normal, traditional upbringing, like, went to school, but it was kind of that end of high school. I felt really pressured to go to university, even though I was really confused and not sure about my future.
Same.
At that age, I feel like everyone has this story that I speak to. It's kind of like the only option for them was to go to uni and figure it out. And so I really played on, I guess, how can I impress others? What degree will impress others? And so I went into a science degree and I failed my first year of uni, which was at the time like the world's ending kind of thing, like my whole identity is breaking down, and which was actually, it ended up being the biggest blessing of my life because I changed degrees and I ended up graduating, but it really gave me the opportunity to sit back and think about my life and not just think about my little bubble at 17, 18 years old. There's this, up to 40, 50 years of working ahead of me. Is this something that I'm really passionate about? Is this something that I care about? Is this something that's going to impact the world and really make a difference? And so after graduating uni, I went and lived in Canada for 2 years.
Fun.
And just literally for the first time in my life had an opportunity to not work full-time, not study full-time, and really get to know myself. I know that sounds really weird, but the opportunity to just like go online and read things and discover the world of entrepreneurship and business. And that was like the spark for me where I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like there are people who are online making a living, changing the world. And I could do the same, and I could do it here in Canada, like I could live anywhere in the world and make an impact. Yeah. So that's kind of where it all triggered for me. And back then there was a lot of men in the industry. So like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, they were like the big gurus and my role models at the time. And I was like, where are the girls? Like I know they're here. I know the girls are here. So that's where I guess the Real Her stemmed from was to really get to know the real women behind the business and learn exactly what it takes to be successful.
Yeah. And you do coaching as well, right?
Yes.
So how did you get that first client?
Yeah, it was really, really hard. It was mainly for me making really personal friendships and connections. So through the podcast and everything I do, I mean, it's called the Real Her Project, so I have to be,
you have to be
super real, even when like it's scary and it's embarrassing or, you know, I'm scared to put myself out there. I really try and set a good example to like whoever's watching or listening that it's okay to put yourself out there and to just not be afraid. And I think a lot of people maybe cotton on to the fact that this was something new and emerging, was this life of authenticity and not being afraid to kind of say if you're mucking up.
Well, because we live in like an Instagram world where everything's so perfect and you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing the 90% of the work that went in to give them that 10% that you're seeing on Instagram. And you're not seeing all the failures and all of that. So I think that's amazing what you're doing with that.
And I also did for the first couple offer free coaching. If anyone wants an actual like strategy behind it, I always I'm not a big advocate for doing free work. If you want to get the testimonial, if you want to also make sure it's right for you, because some people like the idea of coaching and then when they actually get into the process, like it just doesn't vibe or gel well with them.
I found that definitely.
I'm a huge advocate for doing free work until you figure it out.
That's so interesting because that's exactly what Tess Robinson said when I interviewed her. She did, to build her graphic design portfolio, she was doing free work as well. And from that she got like the word of mouth going and so it's really interesting to hear that from you as well. So when you're first starting out, or like even once you've been in it a long time, it's pretty scary putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
How did you get over this?
Yeah, it's been something that I've always struggled with, I guess, as more of an introverted personality. Really the idea of stepping up and saying, hey, I've got something, to show when I really want to put it forward. And I think a lot of it comes when you're passionate about something. It doesn't really matter who you think's watching or listening. Your why is stronger than anything else, worrying about what anyone else will think. So I think if anyone's really struggling to, take that step, they've got maybe something on the side or they want to up level. To me, it's really like the number one thing is to find that why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to present this to the world? And make sure it's strong enough so that even in the bad times, you're still showing up, if that makes sense. Because it's hard when it's not good to still get up every single day and keep like acting like it's okay.
Yeah, I get that. And I think like for me, one of the ways that I've got over that is to focus more on how I'm helping people. And like by showing up, by putting myself out there, I'm helping people who wouldn't have had access to that stuff by not putting myself out there. Yeah.
And something we were speaking about just before this, before we started recording was sometimes taking the emotion out of it can really help as well, and looking at it from a more logical perspective. I'm sure we'll probably touch on it a little bit more, but in this event that I have coming up, it's been really hard for me to consistently market it because I feel like I'm annoying people. I feel like every single day people are seeing me pop up, talk about this. But in reality, when I think about if I was the consumer, how many times do I miss people's posts?
Oh, all the time.
I don't see their stories. Like everything gets lost in the world of social media, and you have to keep pushing. And that's where I've really had to pull the emotion out of it and say, stop thinking about what other people are going to think. You need to look at it from like, I guess, a marketing perspective. And keep talking.
And it feels like a lot for us, but like the way the algorithm works, like most people aren't going to see everything you're putting out there. And if they are seeing it, it's because they're really interested and then they want to see it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, like, that's all good.
Yeah.
So with your coaching clients, most of them are business owners, would you say?
No, they're probably young women either just starting in business or want to start in business. So they kind of have that vision for themselves. They want to live that life, but there's a lot of mindset blocks that are kind of stopping them from kind of taking that next step.
What sort of mindset blocks do you see that are most common around marketing themselves?
Imposter syndrome is probably the biggest one, and it's something which is good because I feel like something everyone goes through, and it's something everyone goes through no matter what level you're at on your business journey. So I think a lot of people think that once I launch the business, I'll feel good. And it's just like, no.
It just keeps getting, like the stakes just keep getting higher.
Yeah. There's just like every time you up level, you set a new goal, you have a new role model, you have new aspirations. And with that comes, more blocks and a bigger imposter syndrome. So to me, it's really important to, help from the ground and help these young women have the coping mechanisms so that when you do up level and you're ready to market yourself again, with a new product or a new service, you're kind of ready to be able to keep moving forward, because those mindset blocks can ruin you. You could have
100%.
You could have a perfect business, you could have an amazing plan or something incredible to show the world, but if you don't think you're good enough, you're going to hide it away and you're going to be too scared. So it's really important that everyone in that matter, is brave enough and confident enough to put themselves out there.
Oh, 100%. And I love that you mentioned imposter syndrome because I'm still waiting for it to go away.
Yeah,
it's not going away.
It's not.
Even when you asked me to speak at your event, I was like, oh, but what am I going to talk about? Surely I don't have anything of value to share with these girls.
I know. And it's just so funny because no one, we're always our harshest critics and we don't know how other people see us. And, to me, you're an amazing businesswoman who has this incredible story and this amazing journey and lives this fantastic life, and you have so much to give to other people. But it's like, if someone asked you what your strengths are, it's like, oh no, I don't want to talk about myself. It's so hard, but it is important to make sure that we're recognized as well.
Yeah. So just on the event, what made you want to run an event?
I would say now a lot of naivety. No, it's honestly I have a podcast as well, and it's really, I guess, bloomed and taken off. I've got to interview a lot of amazing female entrepreneurs. But it's one thing to me to talk to someone over Zoom and interview them over Zoom, and another thing to get them in the room. And there's something about being with someone and feeling their energy.
Definitely.
And getting the opportunity for them to really dive deep into their story and share their processes and everything that led them to where they are today. That's just so different to just, speaking to someone online. So I really wanted to give young females the opportunity to get in front of women who are perhaps where they want to be one day, so they can literally connect the dots. There's no middleman, there's no podcast in between. Yeah. If someone wants to ask Steph how you got to where you are now, they can literally approach you on the day and really just make that genuine connection. Because I think a lot of the time online, we just see the highlight reel. We just see, look at me sitting at Bali, on my laptop, and they think, well, why can't I do that? I'm trying to start this side hustle and no one's buying anything from me, and there's this real big disconnect. So it's really just an opportunity to bring young women together with their role models in a personal setting. It's been a big task.
I can imagine.
But I'm so excited and I'm so happy that I just kind of jumped into it, which is sometimes something you have to do if you want to do something, even if you're not 100% experienced in the area.
Is anyone ever?
Yeah, I know. Just take action, roll with it, and back yourself, and you'd be, I think, highly impressed to see what you can come up with if you're excited and passionate about it.
How did you figure out what needed to be done for the event?
To be honest, I just kind of jumped into it and ran with it as it went. I literally started with, I need a venue and I need speakers. And so that's where I started. And then it was the next step, what else will make this day amazing? I would really love to feature as many female businesses on the day as well. So that's who I'm going to contact for goodie bags. And then, oh, how cool would it be to have a lucky door prize? And like every time I took a step, something else popped up. So it was really just about starting with the basics and making sure, obviously, like you have a date, a venue, and speakers. And honestly, like if you just had that, you have an event. But what can you add to the experience, and what is the point of the event, and how do you want people to walk away from it? How do you want them to feel, and what else can you add to that experience?
Oh man, I really want to run an event, but I'm just so scared. One day, maybe not this year. This year I have too many other things on my plate. Maybe next year.
I'll help you.
Please. So with marketing the event, like obviously marketing an event is very different to marketing your services. Yeah. How have you found that? Like how have you been marketing it?
Yeah, it's been really interesting for me because I'm not like anything grand. It's just little old me. So the budget has been tight, especially when it's your first event. So you've got to put all your money up front into the venue and everything, like every little detail that needs to be bought, you have to buy it straight away. So I set a little money aside for Facebook ads, which is the only paid promotion I'm doing, but I was actually really surprised with the power of free marketing, and just kind of growing something organically. So I've literally I think the biggest one for me was getting offline and speaking to people and actually just telling people about the event. Like the girl that waxes my eyebrows, she has every single day my target audience in her room. So I printed out some flyers and gave her some flyers, and now she's contributing to the Lucky Door Prize. And it's just talking to people and having, flyers out there and making connections and relationships. And a lot of people that have contributed to the Lucky Door Prize, I've, gone to their business and, chatted with them and made those connections, which has been amazing because they end up promoting you just naturally and organically. I also obviously collaborations with influencers. I did a big giveaway. The power of going live, I have noticed, is huge. I went, when my early bird tickets were finishing up, I went live 4 times that day. But I think every time I went live, it led to a sale, because I think people, if they're on their phone and they're ready to interact, something about being live and being really open and vulnerable just seems to really connect.
It's more of a two-way conversation, I think. Yes. I think that's why it's so effective.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just really had to, I guess, get creative with how I was marketing this. But the biggest thing that's blown me away is just those person-to-person connections, which I guess backs up the idea of an event. We're so everyone is online at the moment, online masterclasses or online tutorials or webinars, but I feel like there is still room for people to connect in person as well.
Yeah. And it's so funny because my whole business is built online.
Yeah, I know. And it's
I forget that flyers exist.
Yeah. And it's only when you have to start thinking outside the box like that, where you're like, oh yeah, I could actually just print flyers. And it depends on what you're doing, but you could literally print flyers and put them in every letterbox in your neighborhood or, there's just all these random strategies that I think we just forget sometimes, but they're still powerful.
And even at those, at other events, going up to people and talking to them and just leaving a good impression on that person, not trying to be oh, come to my event, buy my tickets, but just being a nice person and leaving that good impression. Yeah. So you mentioned collaborations. Yeah. I'm a really big fan of collaborations. Yeah. What other collaborations have you done other than influencer ones? Have you done any others?
So I guess a lot of those in-person connections with the businesses that I have chosen to collaborate with, they have just organically shared my stuff, which has been amazing. And I don't know if this is a collaboration, but to me it kind of is, but pretty much every girl that's bought a ticket has shared the event, which I think is really cute, because that it's almost like they're they're getting behind the idea of the event, the overall, I guess, message of the Real Her project. They're really jumping in on that and feeling like it's important for them to share with their friends. Some girls have like DM'd their girl groups, and
I love that.
So I think that's almost like underneath micro influencers is like this community that you can build where they'll do the talking for you and the sharing for you, which I think shouldn't be forgotten about either, because like your customers can be your best advocates, right? So
that's brand advocacy at work right there. Like that's something to be proud of.
Yeah. So I think that's probably been like the most exciting bit for me, is to see the girls that have already bought tickets kind of spread the message and try and get as many people behind it as possible. I'm just like, that warms my heart so much.
And you'll probably find after this event, like if you run the same event again, you'll get all those people who attended last time telling their friends how good it was. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
With collaborations, have you had any any challenges or any that haven't worked as well as you thought?
In terms of like the whole like last year of podcasting, collaborations has basically built the Real Her project brand. And honestly, like the biggest challenge may be someone not replying. Like I think a lot of people are scared to approach people perhaps who seem further ahead than them, or like they have more followers or whatever it is. A lot of people are scared to make that initial connection. And honestly, like the worst thing that's happened to me is just no one's replied.
Or they say no.
Yeah. And like, honestly, if they do reply, I would say 95% of the time it's a yes.
That's great.
Or it's just a not right now. Let's catch up 6 months down the track or something like. And there's been some women that I'm like, wait, what? Like you just said yes? Like, seriously? Like that's amazing. I think the biggest hurdle with collaborations is people being scared once again to put themselves out there because they don't feel like they're worthy of that person's time.
Yeah. What tips would you give to someone who's dealing with that? Like, why would they want to collaborate with me kind of mindset?
I think it's really interesting, like speaking to people why, like, because I think a lot of people think, what would the person get out of it? Like, what are they getting out of it? I get to interview you. You're so amazing. But for them, it's the opportunity, obviously, to reach a whole new audience that may not have known who they are. But for some people as well, they've said to me that it's a great memory for them to have. Yes. Like, they really like the idea of being on a podcast and someone kind of asking them about their journey from start to finish. And it's something that they can keep forever and also share with their audience too, which is amazing for you. Yeah. But it's more something timeless for them, and it's a stamp in time of where they were at this moment. And I think a lot of people like getting behind that. So like, you know, when you're frightened to approach someone, if you kind of have it in the back of your mind, like this isn't all, like I'm not the only one benefiting. Yeah. This is something like we're both getting something out of this. It makes it a lot easier. And if you're, you know, scared to connect with someone, really like immerse yourself in their community, share their stuff, like their stuff, comment, get on their radar first, and then make the move instead of just like following them and then that night sending them a DM like, hey, want to be on my podcast? Like
the
really
generic copy and paste.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and say something that you like that they do, you know, just really make it personal. And I think like you'll be onto a winner.
Yeah. I think we're lucky because, well, not lucky, but we're fortunate because we've got podcasts and people just love being on podcast interviews.
Yeah.
And then that opens up the door for bigger collaborations with them further down the track because like you're building that relationship with that person.
100%. And it's like, well, now obviously like I first met you through my podcast.
Yeah, of course.
And now here we are talking again and we're about to have an event together, almost probably a year later. And then also like a lot of the people that I collaborate with, they're now friends or like mentors or, you know, if I was maybe stuck with a marketing problem, I would probably approach you and like you could send me in the right direction or, you know, I have these connections now for life. It's not just come on my podcast, I take all your followers and we both just walk away. Like it's really important to make sure that like if you're collaborating with someone, it's both ways, and you like actually can, I know it sounds really like weird, but like see a future with that person. Like you can continue on the relationship after just that first initial podcast.
Yeah. And I think also like when you're reaching out to them, telling them what's in it for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than saying what's in it for you, like, what's in it for them.
Yeah.
That's great. So at the end of every episode, I ask a couple of questions to every guest. My first question is, what advice would you give to your pre-business self?
Oh, this is so funny because this is almost the same question I have at the end of mine, which is
I probably stole it from
self.
yours subconsciously.
No, but I love it. I love that question. I think it would be stop worrying what everyone thinks about you and focus on your strengths and what you love to do. Actually just sit down and ask yourself, what am I good at and what do I enjoy doing? And start from there as a baseline.
Sometimes it takes a while to figure that out though.
I feel like it took me like 23, 24 years to figure that out because I had no time at school and uni to just stop and say like, am I enjoying this or am I just like rolling with the punches right now?
But also like it wasn't really feasible to have like an online business kind of thing when we were at school.
You're so right. It's true. But as well, there was nothing like encouraged, maybe if you're not sure, just take a gap year.
Yeah.
It was just like, you have to do something academic, so go.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Our school was very like the school I went to was very you either go to uni or you take a gap year then go to uni.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no other alternative other than that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, what has been your biggest whoops moment in business so far?
I launched a membership at the end of last year. I loved the membership model and I really liked the idea of it, but I launched it way too quick. I got really impatient.
Sounds a bit like me.
I got really, really impatient and didn't understand the workload behind it. And I kind of, not to sound lazy, but I just thought that like it would be something that kind of ran itself. Once I got all the systems in place, it would run itself. And I launched it way too quick and was in over my head. And it's funny because like, I won't get too spiritual or woo-woo on this podcast, but I felt like the universe the whole time was like telling me no, like this is too soon, don't do it. And I was panicking and I was like, no, I've announced it. I've told everyone I'm doing it. I have to do it. And it just didn't work. It wasn't how I thought it would be. The workload was massive, but I do not believe in failures. Like I never ever say I failed. That membership allowed me to sit back and rethink the Real Her project. And that was when I decided to run an event. So I feel like if the membership didn't, mess up, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to actually go all in with this event. So I'm always thankful for those whoops moments, I guess.
Oh, memberships are hard. Like I'm finding mine, like it's a challenge.
Yes.
It's a good challenge, but I'm like, oh, this is a lot more work than I thought it would
I know. Yeah, I agree.
And then the last question is, what has been your biggest growth moment in business so far?
I would honestly say maybe just a couple of months ago, getting a couple of one-on-one clients, because for me, for so long, like I still work part-time. So the Real Her project, I guess, is still a side hustle for me.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Wow. So it's really hard for me to charge for it because it's just such a passion of mine, and it's always like it started as a passion project and just something I love to do, that it's been really hard to step up and say this is a business, and I would like to do this for the rest of my life, and so I need to find a way to get paid and to finally get through those free one-on-one coaching clients and get paid. That was like an amazing moment for me where I was like, okay, like I can actually do this.
It's a viable idea.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, I guess, with the event taking off as well, I feel like a lot at the moment is really growing at the moment for the Real Her project. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Oh, that's so exciting. I hadn't realized it was a side hustle.
Yeah. So I still, I still like wash dishes most mornings in hospitality.
Wow.
And still like working on the floor and stuff. So if anyone's listening as well and, you know, is not sure how to start in business, I'm like a massive advocate for still having a part-time job.
Oh, 100%. My first 2 years in business.
Yeah.
I was working 3 days a week
Yep.
for another startup.
Yep.
It makes such a difference. It takes so much pressure off.
Definitely. Like if you can just cover your rent and your food and put a little bit into the business, you're so comfortable and you can grow at your own pace and there's no pressure to pivot or, you know, follow the market. You can follow your heart. Like as lame as that sounds, like you can just like take it the way you want to take it.
Yeah, and then there isn't that rush to do things as quickly as possible and to make money as quickly as possible because you can't afford to live. Like I feel like because we sometimes rush things and we're like, okay, I need to be making the equivalent of my full-time income in like a month. And that's just not realistic. And then that doesn't happen and then you feel like a failure, but you were setting yourself up to fail from the start anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So stick to a part-time job if you can.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Casey. Tell our listeners where can they find out more about you and about the Real Her Project.
Awesome. Well, you can follow me on Instagram at The Real Her Project. My podcast is The Real Her Project Podcast. And yeah, just find me online at www.therealherproject.com. All pretty
Very easy. Thanks so much, Casey.
Thanks, Steph.